Hi guys. Um, I hope you're doing fine. My name is Mauricio, and yeah, yesterday I did this session, and today this webinar, and today I realized that it was not recorded, like all of it. It just stopped at minute 4 or something like that, and no one told me. So yeah, that means that you were not really watching this webinar. So I hope you're doing right now. But yeah, whatever. These things happen, and the good thing is that, of course, I have the presentation, and yeah, let's see then what happened. So 2 days ago, I had episode 4. I delivered episode 4 that was about EP management, and I told you that I was going to uh, tell you more about during this webinar now about like questions that the EPs have. So yeah, welcome to episode 5 of the Marketing Academy. That it's frequently asked questions from EPs. So first of all, I want you first to remember our EP flow. We saw it in the last webinar, and yeah, as you remember, the EPs are open first, so they create an account or a profile in our platform. Then eventually they apply to opportunities. They can apply to one or to several opportunities. Then they get accepted by the hosting entity and by us as well. And then after signing the contract and doing things like the LDA and the acceptance note, they get approved. Then the realization, when they get realized, is the first day in their project. Then the finished status is when they have the last day of the project, so the project finishes. And completed means that the EP came back to Austria. We had a time with them to debrief a reintegration seminar, and then we went through the experience and the standards if they were fulfilled. And eventually we got the completed, meaning that the experience that they had were really, really good. So it's important for you to know about the EP flow, and of course you're gonna get to know more about it when you're working with EPs. But I wanted you to remember this because I'm also gonna go through the 3 or 4 first phases of the EP flow, because I think that here is when we have more questions from the EPs. But yeah, so first, let's get to open, and here we have our EP. So as you can see, it's like pretty similar to the EP manager from episode 4. And yeah, so one question that EPs do normally in the beginning here, it could be when they're open, but also, when they are strangers, that they haven't made the profile, but we're talking to them. So a question that they would make is, am I bound to pay something if I create my account or apply? And yeah, the answer it's not at all. Okay, so you can tell them that creating the profile, it's gonna be good if they wanna look through for opportunities, and also if they are really not wanting to create the profile at that time, you can also suggest them to give them recommendations about like project recommendations based on their interests. So for example, some people are going to tell you like, okay, I want a project related to education, or I want a project where I want to work with animals. Then other people are going to go more for countries, and other people are going to tell you about the dates when they are free to go. So you can also have this kind of process in an offline way, so that when they like a project, they can actually just create a profile and apply right away. So those could be two options, but it's important to say that they don't have to pay anything for them to create the profile, or that they are not bound to do anything else if they create it. Like they are not obliged to apply or to do something else. They can just look through it. Another thing is, yeah, so this question says, I want to go on an exchange next December or even in 2020, so maybe I will contact you later. So it's a lot, and a lot also with Austrian EPs, because normally people here make plans pretty in advance, like they plan for their holidays, uh, maybe a year before or a semester before. So in a way, you can like a lot of people assume that we don't have projects for that time, but we actually do in some of the countries. And you can tell them like, yeah, don't worry, you can actually apply for opportunities that we have already for December, or even for 2020. So here is also important for you to know as an EP manager, in which countries do they have opportunities open and until what time. But yeah, so you can tell them that they can actually save their spot since now, and it would be really good to get people to get approved since now, and not just expect them to get back to you in 6 months, because maybe they are gonna get another opportunity, or maybe they are gonna forget about Isaac, or maybe they are just gonna be like lazy about it and they are not gonna do it again. So it's better to hook them since the beginning. Yeah, another thing that could be asked during the open phase is like, okay, where do you have projects and where can I go? And this is like a tricky question, because as Isaac, we were always saying that we are present in more than 120 countries and territories, which is true, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the EP have all of these opportunities in the moment for them to apply. So a lot of people say like, okay, we're present in more than 120 countries, so you can go wherever you want. And this, I would say, is like a wrong answer, because you're really giving the EP a lot of opportunities, and not opportunities, like a lot of options. And also maybe it's not that realistic, and maybe they are not going to be able to go to the country they desire. So it's good to say we are present in over than 100 countries around the world, but I would recommend you to go to these countries, and then you propose these percent countries that we know they are gonna have a good experience in, or countries that we know that have projects, that they have availability. And also it's good for us to give them just a certain amount of options, so they can choose between those, and not that they feel that they have 100 options and they are never gonna take a decision. So it's also good for us to be funneling down the options that they have, so they can get approved faster. Another question is then, okay, so if you're gonna recommend some projects and countries, what countries are you recommending and why? And if you should know this by now, but if you don't know it, these are our main IR partners. IR means international relations, so it's Mexico, India, Colombia, and Indonesia. And if people ask you why are you promoting this projects, or more like these countries, or these projects in these countries, you can also say because they have a good variety regarding the projects. So for example, if you want to go to Mexico, it's good, but like we have a lot of LCs in Mexico, and then they have a lot of SDGs as well. Like so you can choose a project in the same city with different SDGs. So you can actually invite your friend that it's more interested in environmental projects, and you are more into educational projects, and both of you can go at the same time to the same city in Mexico, and then do different projects. So that's also a cool way to make people apply for the same country, and also have a good range of options. And also because we know that they have a good customer service, and previous people that have gone from Austria to these countries have had a good experience. So we also recommend these projects. And then, as you remember, the EP is gonna start applying. So an important question would be, do I have to go to this project if I apply to it? That normally happens with the first application. People really don't know how it works. Like they are maybe sometimes scared about applying, because they feel that they are gonna be bound to pay or to go to that project. So the answer, sorry, would be not necessarily. You can actually apply to several projects, but I would suggest you to only apply for the ones that you're really considering to go to. Um, so yeah, that's the thing. For example, if a person applies to three, four, or even five projects, maybe in 1 2 days they are gonna be able to choose between these options. And the process time, it's gonna be fast. And if they just apply to one, maybe we are just relying on one project to answer to us. So it would be good for them to apply to some opportunities, but yeah, in the same time, it's like also apply for the ones that you really want to go to or that you can actually afford to go to, because sometimes people apply and they are doing the process to get approved, and then they realize that, I don't know, the flight tickets are super expensive, or that they didn't consider this, and then they don't go. So it's also good to have this expectation setting with them, regarding where to go, where can they go, during what time, and if it's gonna be possible for them to do it. Another question is, what happens after I apply? So what you can tell them here is that they are going to be contacted by the host entity. So it means, people abroad, and they are going to let them know what do they have to do in order to get accepted. And here, as I said also in the last webinar, it could be different things, right? Like there are some entities that could ask you for a video, like a presentation video, some others for an interview, some others to fill out a form, some others even for a test. So it really depends from entity to entity. It's not something set. And so then it's really common to then have this question, right? So why do different projects ask for different things? And here it's mainly because they are looking for different kind of people. So for example, if you need to teach another language at your project, the process might include an interview in that language, right? That, for example, in my case, when I went to Colombia to my GV, I was teaching English to at a cultural center, and that was the case because they interviewed me in English, and they were like, okay, you can do it. But of course, they were not gonna be like, okay, fill out this form and then go without us knowing if you actually speak English or not. So yeah, and another example is that if you're going to a project where a specific profile is not needed, they are just going to assess, for example, how's your attitude, what are your expectations for the project, and what's your availability, and it's gonna be easier for you as an EP to get approved to that project. So you can tell them these things, not for them not to worry about the process and that it's different from country to country. It's just because some projects ask for different things, and also because sometimes the NGOs in the other countries ask for specific profiles, or maybe some type of interview. So that's why it varies from country to country and from project to project. And yeah, so this could be another question, right? Like sometimes people don't want to apply, and then they are like, yeah, because maybe I will regret applying to this opportunity, and I just don't want to, like be forced to go to this one. So if they actually regret applying, you can tell them that there's not a problem with that, because they can actually withdraw their application from the platform. And for example, even if they're contacted by ISEC in the other country, they can tell ISEC like, okay, like I just withdrew my application, I just don't want to go here anymore, and there's not a problem with that. Like it's completely fine if they do it. And in the accepted phase, yeah, people are gonna be like, okay, I'm accepted. Now what happens? And you have to tell them as CP manager, okay, now you have to do three things: to fill out the LDA, to sign the acceptance note or AN, and also to sign the contract. And of course, then they are gonna have these questions, right? What is the LDA and where do I find it? So LDA is the Leadership Development Assessment. So it's a test that evaluates your leadership qualities before your experience, and then after your experience, you're gonna fill it out again to see how much like you've changed or you have improved in these qualities. And for example, if you're a member in ISEC, that, I mean, you should, because you're watching this webinar, you also did your LDA when you created your profile, and then after having a position in ISEC, it would be good for you to fill it out again to see how much you've grown in terms of like leadership qualities. And you can find both your LDA and acceptance note in your applications in your profile. So they just have to go to their profile. Then there's like a tab that says my applications. They just go to the application where they were accepted to, and then they are gonna have there the options to do both. Then what is the AN? So as I said before, the AN is the acceptance note, and as its name says, it's for them to accept that they are gonna go to this project. So it's kind of like the last and final acceptance for the project, and it's important to do it on expa. And regarding the contract, I know that are gonna be like way more questions for contract. I'm not gonna put them here, so please here I would suggest to really read the contract, so read through it and check these things. But yeah, things that maybe should be important for me to say right now regarding contract is that EPs in Austria are actually legally bound to pay after signing it, so you can actually approve them without the payment. I say this because in expa they say it says mark as paid in order for them to approve them, because in a lot of countries this is the case. They have to pay first in order for Isaac to approve them in the platform, but here we can do it after they sign the contract, because they have to make the payment anyways. So that's a cool thing that helps us with process time. Also, that the EP has 10 days to take the decision before signing it, so that says in the contract, and it's important for us to keep in mind. They also have around 14 days to pay after signing the contract, and they also need to have the XPPs sent to them when signing the contract, because it actually says in the contract that they know what the XPPs are and that they are aware of, yeah, of what they mean or what they say. And yeah, so what are the XPPs? They are exchange program